Again, turn the volume up just a little bit. I want you guys to be able to hear things, right? This is lockup police combat. And I watched this video, right? This is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about with the whole everything has to be tactical, right? Go ahead. I'm going to give you a second, right? Think about what lockup could potentially mean. The term lockup, right? Think about what it could potentially mean. I'm going to count down from 10. All right, here we are. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to press play, and you're going to see what lockup stands for. Whoa!
Lockup. Law officers, combat kinetics, unarmed panoply.
Whoa! Law officers, combat kinetics, unarmed panoply. This is what I'm talking about. Lockup has to be an acronym, and it has to have some weird scientific shit strewn in the middle of it. Kinetics. Kinetics. Whoa. Law officers, combat kinetics. It's scientific. We know the right way to do things. And then panoply. Have you ever heard the word panoply? Or how did he say it?
Law officers, combat kinetics, unarmed panoply.
Yeah, panoply. Have you ever heard the word panoply in your life? Does anyone know what that means? Panoply. I had to Google it. Turns out it means a full suit of armor. That's the I didn't like do a bunch of like extensive research or anything like that, right? But this guy really needed a P word to finish that acronym, to finish the lockup acronym. So he was like, oh dude, what do I do? He whipped open a thesaurus and he was like, panoply. Panoply, a full suit of armor. Panoply. Shoot. Let's see what else I can find. And he couldn't find anything. So he was just like, all right, shoot, man. I guess we're just doing it. I guess we're just doing it. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead, right? So you can just see this, right? Panoply. Panoply. It's just, I know I'm harping on this like extra. It's just because it's the quintessential example of how you can't just say unarmed combat. You can't just say self-defense with the cops. It has to be some sort of military or tactical SWAT type of thing, right? It's insane. You know, a couple of guys who look like they're probably supposed to be Marine silhouettes. They're not even cop silhouettes. They're supposed to be Marines, right? Because whoever made this was probably a Marine. Oh.
Law officers, the system is designed for and by law enforcement.
Protect the neck, cover the eyes.
Peekaboo.
Ear to ear, put them here.
Nobody fights like law.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We're going to go back, right?
Law enforcement.
Protect the neck, cover the eyes. Ear to ear, put them here.
Did you guys notice something there? This dude right here, was he resisting? Was he doing anything crazy? Nah, he was just fucking chilling there, right? And it's always ridiculous when you see these dudes who are martial arts guys, right? They're Aikido guys, or they're Wing Chun, or whatever, right? They're doing these moves on somebody who is not resisting at all, and sometimes they're even going with the situation. This is the other thing with police combatives, right? This guy was not doing anything. Now, if it's bad enough when it's a martial arts guy doing that, think of the ramifications of a police officer doing this. You're just sitting here chilling, you're talking to a cop, blah, 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 blah. No, officer, I'd really rather not have my backpack searched. Thank you very much. Oh, what the hell? What's going on? Right? That's what this guy is training to do. That's what this guy is training those guys to do, right? Now, when he does this, I'm sure he's sitting here saying, oh, well, this is for if you have somebody who is just not complying. You would use this, right? I'm sure that's what he's prefacing it for, but the way he's using it, the way he's using his little cover the eyes and pull them backwards rapidly thing, it's not actually going to be able to be used on somebody who is really trying to resist. Because for one thing, Nobody is going to actually sit here and allow you to do that to them. So the only way that you're going to end up doing this to somebody is if they're not resisting, is if they're just sitting here minding their own business, or maybe they're talking to your partner and they're saying some stuff that you don't exactly like. So you just decide you're going to break that barrier. You're going to turn this kinetic, as the K in lockup stands for, and you're just going to take this dude, you're going to violate his personal space and start absolutely just going at him. And for another thing, this specifically, what happens when Mr. Blackshirt over here does what anyone would do in that situation, which is go, whoa, what the hell? What's going on here? What are you doing, bro? What happens when that ends up happening and your fingernails end up digging into his eyes and there's some kind of damage done, right? That could be permanent damage here. And you're sitting here telling your boys, oh yeah, totally, this is a good move to do on somebody. It's going to be good for resisting. Yeah, you're going to get dudes fired, you're going to get dudes arrested, and you're going to get departments and individuals sued with your bullshito, with your tactical bullshito. I'm using that term, tactical, right? It's I'm going to use it so much today that you're going to be nauseous. You're going to be like, dude, stop saying it. Just say tactical, all right, please. It was funny the first time, not really. But the reason I'm using it is because it really does just describe this so perfectly. This guy sat here, right? Mr. I don't know if we got his name, right? Gray hair man. Mr. Gray hair man sat here thinking about all the cool things he saw in John Wick, and he was like, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that, and I want to go ahead and start trying to think of things on my own, right? And this is what he ended up coming up with. Potentially blind him by grabbing his face around the eyes and pull him backwards when he's not doing anything. Let's keep going, though. We're only 17 seconds into this. Think of what we're about to see here.
Nobody fights like law enforcement does.
This form of instruction is one of the best for the 21st century officer.
Shut up, Edward.
Filled a gap that has been missing in law enforcement for a long time.
No, it didn't.
See, we have a different objective. A self-defense, all we have to do is defend ourselves and flee the area. But as a law enforcement or the security operations, we need to...
That was not beautiful. Again, look at this.
Flee the area.
Dude's just chilling there. Dude's just chilling there, right? This guy tries to sweep the leg, doesn't quite work, so he pushes on the leg. People don't just sit there and allow you to do these things. Again, the precedent that is being set here, regardless of the stated goal, is to physically aggress upon someone who is not actually doing anything to deserve it currently.
But as a law enforcement or the security operations,
that would never work.
Control and restrain the individual.
I'm in here, pull leg up, right down, pivot as much as I can.
This is police combat. This is not defensive tactics.
Teaches you control.
You guys are idiots, and I would fuck each of you up.
Understand the totality of your circumstances.
Law enforcement has completely different variables.
What even is this? You see what I'm talking about, right? Now, maybe they're doing this because, like, oh, sometimes it's going to be nighttime. But overall, what is this doing? This is just a way to make them feel like they're in some kind of weird tactical training thing. You know, they're in the shoot house. They're in the shoot house, and the guy, their drill instructor, said that they have to take down the OP4. That they can't use the simunition that's in their real guns to shoot the OP4 or anything like that. They have to take them down. And this is what it is. They think they're in the shoot house right now.
Variables. First of all, the limited amount of training that they have. Secondly, restrictive uniform. Third,
those are some awful elbows.
Oversight, review, force continuums, Graham versus Connor. They have restrictive policies and procedures pertaining to that.
I've used this system many times, deployed many of their tactics, and not one time.
All right, so this one was actually kind of interesting, all right? This one was actually kind of interesting. We're going to take a look at this one, right?
Restrictive policies and procedures pertaining to that.
Okay, so first off, this guy starts off with a push, right? This officer should have never let this guy get close enough to push him in the first place, right? This is. I'm not saying that like everything's always going to be perfect all the time. It's going to end up happening, right? But you have to be able to try your best to not have that happen, and you do need to know how to handle it, right? And that's what this next step is supposed to be. Now, what I will say is that it's not really realistic that Mr. Greenshirt here is going to push him and then start poking him, right? When people attack cops, it tends to be sort of an all or nothing sort of situation. It's not some situation where somebody's getting in somebody's face. This is a bar fight, what's going on right now. This is not a situation with a cop, because typically when people fight a cop, it's either to try and get away, which this guy is not trying to get away, or it's to absolutely positively beat the cop. There is going to be an overwhelming aggressive force that is applied, not a shove and then, hey, grr, not that, right? So even this right here, even though I'm about to say something interesting, right, this right here is still not realistic to what an officer could expect to experience in the field, right?
Use this system.
So this right here, this is actually interesting because this is a wrestling and a jiu-jitsu thing. It's called an arm drag, and you're going to see what ends up happening.
Many times.
So you see he ends up getting turned around. That's actually pretty cool, and that is something real. Now, the issue that I have is that this guy lets go of the arm drag, and he ends up transitioning to the shoulders. That's not going to be something he's really going to be able to do anything with, because at the end of the day, this guy, he's not just going to allow him to turn him around completely. When I hit arm drags on people who don't expect them to occur, right, that's not the way that it works, right? There is some form of resistance. The idea of an arm drag is that you're going to get somebody when they don't expect it, but about halfway through the arm drag, they're going to be like, oh man, he's doing something. I better tense up, right? In addition to that, when you end up hitting an arm drag, right, even if you do get him all the way around, you're not going to want to take your hands completely off of him and then replace them wherever you want to go. What you're going to want to do, right, if you see my hands, I'm going to hit the arm drag, right, and then the free hand is going to come around, and I'm going to wrap the person up. And then the hand with the arm drag, right, is going to end up doing this. This is called a Gable grip, all right? I believe it's named after Dan Gable. I don't know any other Gables out there, so I'm going to assume it's named after Dan Gable, right? One of the best to ever do it in wrestling. Even when these guys get something right, it's like they only get 1/10 of it. They only get 1/10 of what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to know. I almost combined those two words, and it's just crazy to see. It's just terrible to see. These guys, all these guys right here are going to end up getting hurt. And I'm sure one of them has some story about one time that there was some gigantic fluke where their arm drag saved them. And I'm willing to bet that the only reason why it saved them is because the other guy was not actually trying to fight. It's just like in the first move that we saw where the dude ends up having the hands put over his eyes, right? The only reason that would ever work is because the person they were doing it to was not actually trying to resist either at all, or they just weren't trying to resist that much, right? It's not even that they were trying to resist. It's just that, they just weren't complying fast enough for the officer's wishes.
I'm deployed many of their tactics, and not one time have I personally ever experienced an injury to myself or to the person I was taking under control.
The class has taught me how to further protect the officer and
jeez. Everybody knew a guy who looked like that in high school.
Combative kinetic movements are designed to fit the needs of the officer.
Combat kinetics. That would never work.
Arrest, control, or control and restraint. Unarmed, because it starts off as an unarmed system. Everything needs to be integrated.
There's that arm drag.
From communications, you have to know how to communicate.
So that mount escape, I didn't get a good look at it, but I don't think it was necessarily the worst thing. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to be. Oh, this. I love this one. Here, what is the point of this? What is the point of this, right? So what he's doing is he's taking the baton and he's pressing it down against the Achilles, the calf, that general area. That's a submission in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a calf crush or, an Achilles crush, right? I forget. I believe it's just called an Achilles crush. Man, whatever. I'm not a leg lock specialist. I actually need to start getting into them a little bit more because, you know, I'm a brown belt now. I'm legally allowed to do certain leg locks in competitions and things like that. But this right here, there is no actual control over this guy right here, right? I'm wondering what this is. I almost wonder if it's a situation where they're just like, hey, I want everybody to feel how this feels. Right? Maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but I don't want to give these guys too much out, right? I don't want to give these guys too much of an out. There is nothing that this is going to achieve. This guy is just going to pull his leg out, get up and run, right? I don't even believe this guy is sitting on the dude's foot. And even if he was, he's not going to be able to do it in a way that's going to actually benefit him in any way, shape, or form. So right now, if this is being taught as a method of control, he's just teaching these guys how to cause a lot of pain for no reason, right? Or not even necessarily no reason, but basically for free, right? Basically, he's just teaching these guys how to cause a lot of pain and not actually be able to follow up on it or anything like that. It's crazy. And again, the theme here is that this would not work on somebody who doesn't want it to work. So if somebody is already laying on the ground and you bend down to go ahead and use your baton to apply pressure to the Achilles, right? You're literally just brutalizing the guy. He has followed through on what you want him to do. Even if he's not like, you know, even if he's like flailing his arms around, he doesn't want you to get the cuffs on and things like that, there really isn't a need to do that. You should be on top of him about here, right? Or maybe you could even ride the legs. You could do the Habib thing. You could ride the legs so that he can't use his legs to build a base and get up, right? But you should be focusing on getting control of the arms, which is not that hard to do when you're in this position. And again, this is something that wrestling specifically is very good with, right? But let's continue.
If you use a baton and that doesn't work, you have to integrate into something different. If you use a taser, you might...
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Look at the way this dude rolls.
You have to integrate into something different. If you use a taser,
flopping like a fish, bro.
Something different.
And he's actually simplified it to a point that we can actually train our deputies in a more effective manner.
They really like
Then
wrist
we can
locks.
actually employ it on the street, and we're actually seeing a higher
Wow.
retention rate, and actually
That will not work.
employing it more.
Still don't know what that is.
Complete shining array of a warrior. The navy blue uniform, the green uniform, the shield upon your chest.
Ah, you see?
Trust me, the ultimate warrior is the one to get his opponent to concede without the use of violence.
You
But
see?
unfortunately, in law enforcement, you need to be prepared to do violence for the protection of a third party or yourself. Lockup is designed for law enforcement security operations. Why you should use it is because it's evidence-based. That means it's not theory. All these techniques have been proven to be effective in the field.
No, they haven't.
Training is not to be measured by how you succeeded in the classroom or in the gym. Training is only to be measured by post-training events in the real world. If they can't give you quantifiable evidence of success, guys, you might want to start looking. We need to prove realism in what's going to affect, and that's what lockup is.
The system works. I would definitely recommend this class to any supervisors.
Hey, you're just standing there? Bang! Kick out the knee.
You can reach us on our website at policecombat.com or feel free to call us directly.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back real quick, right? Because I noticed something. Does that look familiar? What did I just get done talking about? So you have Officer 1, Officer 2, Officer 3, right? Officers 1 and 2 both have the guy's arms. Officer 3 is pushing down on the head. What the hell is fuckhead over here doing? Why is he applying a submission right now? I understand if he wants to tie up the legs, right? Maybe he can ride the legs, or maybe he can take the legs and he can put them in a position where it's gonna take away leverage from this guy right here, so that he can't move the legs. I understand that, you know. I mean, if you're there, you might as well help out, right? You might as well be of some use, I guess, right? But what the hell is the point of this? He's got this leg right here too. You're gonna have another baton. You're gonna be like both legs like pressuring down. No, it's just pointless stuff put in there for no reason at all. Just cause they thought, hey, you know what, this could use an Achilles lock. You know, these absolute morons. These, it's just like, wow. David says, I teach CAKJ. It stands for Combat Action Kinetic Je ne sais quoi. Dude, you might as well, dude. You might as well make something like that, right? Because you could probably make tons of money off of teaching cops in some random fucking state, right? Some random state where the people don't know what the hell good unarmed combat is, which is most, if not all of them, actually, if we're just being honest here, you know? I will say that, cops in my state, they've started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Of course, it's an insular thing, right? The black belt who teaches the classes is a cop, right? So you don't have these cops that are like, hey, let's go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym and train with the peons, the civilians, the civilian scum. Let's train with them. No. You don't have that, right? You have a situation where it's a black belt cop who is sitting there and teaching these guys. And there's benefits to that. Don't get me wrong, right? The police have certain rules of engagement. And because of that, a black belt cop is going to know which techniques are actually going to benefit them. So I'm not saying that it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not just stuff like that. It truly is because these cops, like I said, they need things like lockup. They need to be in a room full of a bunch of other law enforcement officers and military guys and other things like that. Because if they're not, then they feel weird, right? And it's not because it truly is weird. I've never seen a cop walk into a gym and get treated differently just because they're a cop. You can usually tell who the cops are. Cops carry themselves in a certain way, right? I've never seen them get treated differently, even when they're like, yeah, I'm a cop. I've never seen a cop go into a gym and say, yeah, I'm a cop, and then they get like chased out because it's like a BLM gym, because it's an Antifa gym or something like that, right? That's crazy. You know, what it really is that these people, they get this idea in their head that they're super tactical SWAT operators. They're operator whatever, right? That's what it is in their heads. And because of that, they don't want to deal with the people who they got out of work at their desk job, or you know, there's some kid who you know, is fresh out of high school and things like that. They don't want to get beat up by civilians that they know that they might end up having to arrest one day. That's literally a thing,